Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé, The Single Life. Let's watch.
And here I am, next to the ocean, surrounded by many good-looking single men. I feel good. It's been a half year since I left Mike, my husband. I was with Michael more than 4 years, and now we are not together.
Okay, so we're learning that it's been 6 months since leaving Mike. So that's an important detail. Hopefully we'll hear her narrative. Now, she's absolutely capable, and she's exhibited the ability to look at herself and take ownership and responsibility for her part in her dynamic with Mike. So I'm guessing we'll hear that in her language here.
Michael met 4 years ago. Immediately, I was attracted to Michael a lot. The feeling he gave me, because he would say so many nice things to me. You're my queen. And then, oh my God, he proposed me in Paris.
Look at that. We got some new hardware.
We were madly in love, and we applied for K1 visa.
Yeah, that was my perception in the beginning. It was hard to remember that, as their relationship was so difficult for so long, but I kept reminding myself there was a time when they were, as she puts it, madly in love.
I suffered a lot. It's scary. It was dark, like a horror movie.
Come on in. This is the mud room.
It's all dirty.
Yeah?
All my life I live in an apartment. I don't know how to live in a trailer in the middle of the wood.
Yeah, I'm reminded about how much of a culture and lifestyle shock that was for her. Now, she knew what she was getting into. I mean, it wasn't like she didn't know where he lived. I mean, she could have looked it up on a map on Google and seen, oh, you live in the middle of the woods, very far away. And it also, you can look on Google, how long does it take to drive to Seattle? It's, like three hours or something. So she knew what she was getting into. She could have said no to that. Presumably, when they started to flirt, she could have been like, oh, no. But, I don't know. Sometimes you fall in love with who you fall in love with. Yeah, I think it's interesting to think about this, and I think it's relevant to the show that usually when we fall in love, prior to the internet especially, it was people that were just near us. We'd see them at a thing, and the chance that they were familiar and liked the climate and the lifestyle of that town was high because that's where they lived. But with the internet, it's like we can fall in love with anyone, and we can fall in love with people that have absolutely no interest in living where we live, and we have no interest in living where they live, but we've fallen in love because there's no editor in our mind as we're falling in love. Like, because I was about to say, they should have thought about that, but who thinks about stuff like that? I forget how they met, but they're falling in love, and we're supposed to expect each of them to stop and say, wait, I'm falling in love right now. I deeply, deeply love this person and attracted to them, but is he willing to come live in Kyiv, or is he willing to move to Seattle? Because I really don't think I can live in Scotland. The other thing is she might have predicted it would go better than it did. She's like, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. But she had a different vision. And some people will comment below that there's this vision of America as it's all New York or Los Angeles or Las Vegas or something, instead of recognizing that, it's a vast, vast country, and most of which is rural. If you've ever driven across the United States like I have, or even just spans of it, you realize like it's 99.9% of just farming fields or desolate areas, and then every once in a while, boom, there's a city or a town, and then it's another stretch of rural area. I mean, it's not all like that, of course, but it can be. Anyway, so maybe she was under the impression like, well, sure, he lives in the woods, but the city is right next door.
I realized that Michael wasn't prepared for me, and I'm not a priority.
I feel like a toy in your hands. I'm not a toy. I'm a human being. I changed my country for you. How do I have to feel?
So yeah, I remember this scene, and I'm guessing that is how she felt. She felt, she's saying toy, but what I would have helped her to be more, sort of specific about, because he's going to be like, I don't think of you as a toy. But what is more fundamental is, I don't feel like you love me. I feel like you don't care about me. I feel like you're not really interested in me as a human being. I'm more of like an object to you. I don't think that was true for Mike. I think he was running from fear of a judgment or attachment loss, and he has a very, if that's true, he had a very consistent defense of avoidant attachment style and putting up walls. Because in the end, we clearly saw that he desperately wanted that relationship. I mean, there were so many times when he could have just walked away, but he and then sometimes he would actually really, express his emotions. Anyway, so yeah, she felt like a toy.
Teresa,
What's the matter?
I'm sorry, I'm crying. I'm sorry, I have to tell you we cancel our wedding.
Michael canceled the wedding. It was really hard. Michael said to me that he made a mistake and he apologized to me, and he married me eventually.
Yeah, so I don't know, but for avoidant people, a very frequent impulse is to run. For the avoidant people in my audience right now, you know what I'm talking about, that when there's tension or even flat out conflict between you and your partner, you have this thought of, we could just break up, just move in by yourself, get away. Or even, I need to get my own house, I need to get my own office, I need to get my own, I need to just drive off into the sunset. And it's a very overwhelming compulsion, and if you don't understand it as a defense mechanism, you'll act on it and harm other people and actually create attachment loss when you don't actually want it. He clearly didn't want to lose her. He didn't want to not marry. I think he was highly ambivalent about marrying her, and I'm surprised she wasn't more ambivalent. She seemed very sure she wanted to marry him. I'm like, why would you be sure of that? You've had so much conflict. But so his ambivalence, I think, was rational, but I think he agreed to marry her because he was desperate to retain her. I think he was really scared to lose any kind of attachment.
Pronounce you husband and wife. And Natalie, you may kiss your husband.
Being married to Mike, it was even harder because Mike's mom called Mike every day, twice a day. And she would brainwash him.
So back when that was happening and Natalie was complaining about the mom brainwashing him, I was like, I don't know. And then we started hearing the phone calls, and then we saw more of her in that previous season. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, brainwashing is really the term. She was adamant that Natalie was a terrible, evil human being and that Mike should never marry her. I think that her impulse came from a good place in the beginning because the mom met her while they were fighting quite a bit. And I think even us as watchers, I think we're going, the two of you are not compatible. There's too many issues there. Maybe you should try to find someone else different. So I think the mom's impulse at first made sense, but then it grew into this irrational vilification of Natalie.
A lot.
Why your mom call me hooker?
No one called you hooker.
I mean,
No one called you.
she thinks I'm a hooker.
And every day it went worse and worse and worse and worse.
I'm being loving and supporting towards you.
And so we're not hearing her say her part in it. She's not saying, and I did this, and maybe she would if she had a chance, and maybe they edited it out. It is interesting to look back at the hooker thing, because at the time I was like, the mom wouldn't, that's absurd. But then seeing what the mom was like soon after that, I think she held those attitudes while she was during that scene. I think it was Thanksgiving, but that would have been two Thanksgivings, or a year ago Thanksgiving, that I could absolutely imagine the mom saying that. Now, it could have been a misunderstanding, but I could see the mom saying that. And actually someone commented that the mom thinks of Natalie as only in it for the green card. I mean, the mom was 100% sure that, Natalie does not love my son. She's only in it for the green card. Now, maybe the mom knows something that we don't know, and it's possible we can't know Natalie's heart. And maybe it became that, but definitely Natalie in the beginning was in love with Mike. And I believe that she wasn't in it for the green card. I think that's pretty rare on this show. But anyway, so for the mom to see Natalie as selling her body for a green card and saying hooker, I could absolutely imagine that happening. But I could also see it just being a misunderstanding. Now, we're going to see a clip of where Mike stood up and was having a meltdown and was desperately trying, so when you hear his words, it's not going to make a lot of sense. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. But when I think about the message is it's not my fault, it's your fault. And why would someone do that? Well, often it's because it's like, love me. Look, it's not my fault. This relationship went down the tubes. It's your fault. And so, don't leave me because it's not my fault. I think that's the vibe. Or be nicer to me, I think was his ultimate gestalt message that he was trying to get across.
How do I have to feel?
I felt really terrible. One day I just said, enough, I cannot, I just can't. So I decided to leave. Michael, I love you, but I'm not happy like this.
Whatever. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
And seeing this again out of a snippet, you just have to think what age. I often will think about what stage of development are these people exhibiting, and a behavior like this, I would say, is that of a teenage boy who is trying to act tough when in reality they're not tough. There's so many other ways he could be expressing himself. He could be like, I'm really sad about this, Natalie, but yeah, that's probably for the best. And I'm kind of confused. I want to tell you not to go, but I also kind of think maybe you should. And frankly, I'm really hurt and angry about this. There's a way of saying it that's more like an adult, but the way he says it, he's like, whatever. Don't let the door split you where the good Lord, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. He got that from his mom. Why would you say that if you weren't operating from a defensive place like that? And then you ask, why would someone operate from a adolescent developmental space? It's because of relational traumas that have made it so that they've remained stuck. One of the things that you can do is ask your partner, when I have a meltdown, what age do I seem to you? Because you can seem like you're two, your fetal positioning, and just sort of completely out of sorts, which, it happens. You can seem like you're a 7 where, you just give off a 5th grade energy. Sometimes I'll see a lot of 5th grade energy in people, or a teenage energy, because that can help us, one, understand maybe where a lot of our relational traumas happened, and two, like where we need to, what the next step is. There's different developmental tasks for 2-year-olds as opposed to 5th graders, as opposed to a 14-year-old. All right, well, that is for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really, really do.